Good evening, everyone. I would like to do a report for what happened today, Sunday. This is the 31st of January. And the past week has just been crazy, especially yesterday. And overall, there's good news over the much more horrible news that the Galactics had barricaded the doors or sealed the doors and tunnels to the MILABS shut. Well, then they brought in what's called Army Special Ops, who used their methods to, I think they just blasted everything out and cleaned it out. And but I don't think this is going to last for long, because what's happening is they keep bringing in more and more people, but they can't stay here because the vibration is too high. And as soon as they're transfigured and transmuted, then the Galactics have been arresting. I mean, the Galactics have been arresting people by the thousands. And one of the things also I deal with is these beings called temporals, who they're really artificial intelligence beings. And it's kind of like, I look at it kind of like a video game. And because they can move their soul into this artificial intelligence unit and then travel. And this is how they come into our homes. Now, over 90% of American homes have been invaded by these temporals, and we don't see them. We have to use other means to know that they're there, like see them through our third eye, or just sense their presence. And they've been being destroyed. And then in the MILABS, the facilities to produce them, their means were destroyed. And so then they brought in more people, and then they had the new equipment, and then all those temporals were destroyed. And it's just like on, and every time the dark makes a slight advance, it's immediately rectified, either by destroying the temporals, artificial intelligence drones, or or the arrests of the invading people from other star systems. And but today, I'd like to go through the grim news first. It was more children from Africa. The 176 children were gang raped and then murdered in 2 locations today. And AFRICOM, which is a privately owned military organization that is former Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, they brought these 176 children, and they had been collected in 12 African countries. And then they were shipped over here. And most of these children have all lost their parents from war crimes, or they were murdered by HIV. And I say that because literally almost everybody on this planet who's contracted HIV got it through vaccines. It was a specific act. It was created at one of the MILABS. And I know the 2 males, they called themselves Doug and Scott, but that's not their real name. They were Insectians. But they was arrested quite a while ago. And on the way home here to America, AFRICOM soldiers fed the children food and drink, and there were drugs in the food and drink. And then they selected 12 of these children to rape them on the way home, and they were all girls aged 10 to 14, which this is so typical for the United States military. Just rape and murder their way through life. And they were gang raped by a group of 17 AFRICOM soldiers, and this group were all former Army Green Berets. And in the 2 locations, Denver MILAB was reopened Saturday by Army Special Ops, and 84 children were taken there for a large party. 509 males gang raped these 84 little African children, and also they had 26 females were present as well. The females were from DARPA, TSA, DHS, and which includes FEMA, and they watched the children, because a lot of women like to watch men rape children, unfortunately. This great country of ours. And these 84 children were then murdered by the 26 witnessing females. And they all used this 17-inch dagger, which, the Illuminati is very obsessed with numbers and astrology. I don't know what the significance of 17 inches means, but and then the other 58 were killed by elite members of the United States military and then one senator. And virtually every male senator has raped children, and if I remember correctly, all of the males have murdered at least one child. Because you can't be in the United States government unless you're a child rapist and a murderer. And then there was a huge party in Crawfordsville, Texas, at the Crawfordsville, Texas MILAB. 92 children were taken there, the other group of this African children, for a very large party of the Illuminati Nazi group. It's basically the same thing. The Illuminatis and the Nazis and the Freemasons, the Skull and Bones, the Committee of 300, the Bilderbergs. There's a lot of different subgroups, but it's basically all the same group. And 301 people from Hollywood came to this party in Texas. Hollywood moguls, actors, directors, and producers. And also present were Secret Service, NSA, CIA, FBI, TSA, DHS, 5 senators, and 4 governors. And this party was a huge human sacrifice, Illuminati event to mark the start of what they're calling, quote unquote, the America Takedown. Preparations are in full swing to abduct Americans and kill us all in the Nazi concentration camps, which are all over this country. I think they're calling them like FEMA life-saving rescue centers, or you know how the army or the military always puts colorful euphemisms when they murder people or rape children. And I don't know what, but I'm pretty sure their build is FEMA something or other. Probably FEMA life liberation, liberate you from your life. That's like, God, I've been dealing with this now. Moving into tonight will be the 50th month I've been dealing with these people. 50 months, every few minutes, 24 hours a day. They even attack us while we sleep. I'm sorry, where was I in this statement? Oh yeah, and they're planning another 9/11 to declare martial law. And I know this sounds like extremist or fear porn or whatever, but heaven says there's an absolute 0% chance of them pulling this off. And one of the reasons is because the 819 highest ranking of this group have been arrested and removed. And Dick Cheney is one of them. If you remember at 9/11, when Dick Cheney piloted those 2 empty military planes into the World Trade Center, and then he later fired a missile into the Pentagon. And there's 4,001 people in heaven that say they were murdered by Dick Cheney on 9/11. And then, as you know, there's so many detailed. You can go to like Veterans, I think it's a site's called Veterans Today or whatever, and see, because they had a very detailed list of all these quote-unquote Jewish businessmen who were involved in this. But the thing is, they're not really Jewish businessmen. There's a huge number of Nazi war criminals who are in new bodies pretending to be Jewish. And there's a whole list of people that were involved. Mossad was the one who planted all those detonation devices in the towers to bring them down. And also, at one point, I remember it was a very stressful weekend, Dick Cheney hired Mossad to plant 31 nuclear bombs here in the northeast part of the country, in the east part of the country. He started in Battery Park City in New York and Lower Manhattan, and they were all around here. If I remember right, they had one in Toledo and South Bend, Fort Wayne. They put one in Austin, Texas, but I don't remember offhand. That's been, I think, a couple years ago. That weekend was a real stressful weekend, because they kept thinking I knew where they were. It's like I have to go research stuff to find out what's really going on. And then a lot of times, like yesterday, Saturday, there were so many heavy weapons being used upon me that I don't like to, try to read during those events, because there's so much interference. So I usually wait till the storm clears and then do a lot of research, because what I do is I look at the people's DNA and I read evidence out of people's DNA, and then go from there to verify in other locations. But the best news is that everybody, 100% of the invading people from other planets, other solar star systems, they've all been arrested. And then in a last desperate attack or an attempt, they brought in 14 non-physical Alpha Draconians. And they were basically the same as the 17. We used to have 1,738 here living in our solar system. And they lived inside the sun, and most of them were right around here on Earth. But they also had a lot to do with Saturn, because Saturn was the Archon headquarters, which was cleared quite a while ago now. And now only, I was told that everyone that lives inside Saturn now is a benevolent being, and Saturn has a new embodiment soul, because almost all the planets has a major embodiment soul, usually female. Like here on Earth we have Mother Gaia. We still call this planet Earth, but Mother Earth left, and there were also other inhabiting. There was Artha and Terra. This planet's had a lot of different names over the years, but so ultimately, except for the bad news for the 176 more children that were raped and murdered, the good news is that heaven says this whole thing of killing us all in Nazi concentration camps is not going to be true, and at least the worst of the people have all been arrested. Like Dick Cheney, I think it was 19 members of the Bush family, and Hillary. Boy, we were glad to see her go, didn't we? Oh my God, she was such a skank. Ugh, the smell coming. She smelled just like Barbara Bush and Dick Cheney. I was told that because they drink human blood from these children, that's why they stink so much. Excuse me, but you can see all that online. There's YouTube videos filled with people complaining about the smell of reptilians. And I wish I had better news, but I really don't think this is going to be around much longer, because the way that they're acting, and as desperate as they are, they're not going to be able to focus and pull off something without everybody knowing. And thank you for your prayers, because your prayers really, really helped me a lot. Really helped me a lot. Destroying these temporals is very exhausting work, and but heaven's made it so it's a lot easier now. And actually, just a few moments ago, the remaining 117, I think they were all in the White House, in the lower levels of the White House. The last ones were destroyed. And boy, I'm glad, because they come into our homes and they used to beat us up and rape us. And like every time you see a horror movie and somebody gets picked up and they're flown across the room, that's not a ghost that does that. That's a temporal. And a lot of this is based on truth. And if there's an artist, an amazing man who's still in recovery, he's in the Hall of Healing in heaven. And his name is H.R. Geiger, G-I-G-E-R. And if you Google H.R. Geiger's artwork, you can see a multitude of human insectian hybrids or blended people that are multiple species people. And one of them, some of his self-portraits of when he was a baby, it's just like out of Star Trek where they had the Borg, except that wasn't a Borg cube, that was a Draco cube. And they've done all kinds of experiments on us. But if you want to see some of these, almost everything that he drew is what he saw. And I understand he's doing well, but he was, in 32 lifetimes, they held him as prisoner. And if you watch, I think it's called Dark World. There's a documentary on Netflix with him and his friends. And if you look around the dinner table, everybody, it's like a survivor group. It's like the guys from the punk rock band. One of them had 3 lifetimes being held as a prisoner and heavily tortured. And it's just amazing what they've done to us. Oh, my time's up. Sorry, 13 minutes. It'll probably take 3 hours to download this. Anyway, I love you very much, and thank you for your prayers. And things are looking up. God bless you all.